Warren Buffett. Pretty much everyone knows who he is, and his so-called investment advice has simply been to find a low-cost ETF that tracks S&P 500 and just dollar cost average into that. Invest into it every month. Make sure you pay yourself. You do your investments first before you do anything else, right? So maybe if you can set aside 10%, 20%, whatever the number is of your salary each month, it automatically goes to purchase an ETF that tracks the S&P 500. Probably this is going to be a very solid investment foundation for the average investor, okay? And I think it's really good advice, though this is not investment advice, by the way. And also other people have recommended something very similar. For example, John Boglehead, though he is the founder of Vanguard, so maybe you could say he's biased, but I think that what he said makes a lot of sense. Even Ray Dalio, even though I don't think he has explicitly said it, he holds S&P 500 as I think the majority of his so-called portfolio in his hedge fund, right? So for the average person who doesn't really want to take the time or doesn't have the time to go and learn a lot about different investment opportunities, I think it makes a lot of sense. And the two key takeaways here, number one, you need to invest. I don't want to say need, but it really makes sense to invest. Otherwise, you're losing money to inflation every year, number one. And then number two, time in market is more important than timing the market. So rather than waiting for the market to go up and down to see when it's a good buying opportunity, right? Just every month set aside as much as you can from your monthly salary, your monthly earnings, to put into a low cost S&P 500 ETF, right? And actually this is exactly how I started, right? But what caused me to pivot was simply that I wanted more, and I thought that I had the time. I wanted to put in the effort to educate myself and so on. So how I started at that time was I talked to many different people, mostly people that I knew, but also even found random people online, and I tried to reach out to certain individuals that I had some kind of respect for whatever reasons. And what I did when I talked to many people is I simply asked, number one, do you invest? If you invest, what do you invest in? Why do you invest in that? How have the returns been? And this kind of stuff. So I really wanted to seek investment advice from other people. And I got many different answers. Some people definitely recommended, ETF, S&P 500 is fine, whatever. But some of the most successful people that I managed to talk to and I managed to get advice from, or even like mentorship, they were invested in real estate. And the most successful ones were invested in not just real estate like single family housing, but they were invested in commercial real estate. There are many, many reasons for that, but that's beyond the scope of this video. I'll definitely address that in another video in this so-called 90-day series. But yeah, commercial real estate. And by the way, I still ask this question today to pretty much everyone that I can when I can. So I'll ask, what do you invest? How have the returns been? And why do you invest in that stuff? So please do not be surprised if you are, in my so-called circle and I ask you this question. I'm not trying to sell you anything. When I ask this question, I really am still looking for, new potential investments, number one. And I'm just constantly trying to educate myself. I never want to assume that I know everything or that I know the best way to invest money. I think there's always something new to learn, and when you stop learning, well, I don't want to talk about that, but you have to keep learning for your entire life or you will completely stagnate. And then also, when I first heard commercial real estate, I was like, what the heck? I'm not rich. I don't have the money to do that. That's crazy. And I think this is a very common and natural objection. But number one, especially in commercial real estate, there are very, very few people that do it alone. It is a team sport, right? So you can pool money with other people in syndications, which is something we'll definitely get into in another video as well. So you don't have to do it alone, and you can invest much lower amounts than you would probably expect. And then number two, another objection that a lot of people might have, and even I had at the beginning, is like, I don't know anything about commercial real estate. I have no idea where to start. And the good news for the second part of this is that many syndicators, pretty much any syndicator worth their salt, is going to be putting out educational materials on a monthly, weekly, whatever basis. They're going to be holding webinars to inform you about different things. Syndicators love to provide education because they know from their own personal experience, their own personal journey, that when people learn about the power of commercial real estate, they see all the benefits, the tax benefits, the returns, when they see everything and they know a lot more about commercial real estate, they are really going to do a lot to, do their best to invest into this asset class, because it's really, really amazing. And that's been my experience as well. So if you want educational materials, we provide them. Other syndicators provide them for sure. You have lots of options. Anyway, again, this is just how I started, right? I started out with like the S&P 500, and then I pivoted very, very primarily into commercial real estate. But if you don't have the risk appetite for that, or you feel like you don't have the means to do it right now, or you don't know enough about the space, you don't have someone that you can trust in the space, then maybe it's not for you, right? But I would personally at least reach out to people that in that space and try to learn more. Spend 3 or 4 hours looking into it, and I think that it could just change your future. Yeah, so it may not be for you, but for me, I am pretty much all in on commercial real estate for numerous reasons. I'll definitely go into more detail on a different video, but I want to touch on a few points right here really quickly. One thing I really, really like about commercial real estate is the ability to have a business plan and then do the underwriting to kind of figure out what the returns are going to be like. I have no idea how to do that with a stock, right? I don't know how to calculate what the future price is going to be. I know that some analysts are going to have like projected values for stocks as well, like whatever you call them, I forgot, like strike prices or target prices. But I don't know how to do that, and I don't have the ability to do that with stocks. But I know how to do it with commercial real estate, right? You can look at rent comps. You can see what other units are renting for. You can compare the vintage, the age of your property to the age of other properties. You can look at the population growth, the job growth, all kinds of. There's a lot of market research that you can do to have a much higher level of confidence in the numbers that you are inputting into your underwriting. So I don't know. For me, it really, really makes sense. Maybe because I have like a mathematical background, so I like to be able to crunch the numbers and kind of see how I think things are going to turn out, right? Of course, these are just projections, but the projections are based on actual data, actual numbers from other properties and everything like that. So it's great, and we're definitely going to go into further detail on that on another video for sure. Plus, I really like the idea of holding on to an income producing asset. And if you want to know why having income producing assets is so important, maybe watch the next video. It'll be, I think that's what we will cover tomorrow. Okay, thank you. Haven't joined yet? Our free investing group gives you front row access to new deals and helpful investing education. Sign up today.